In your mind, what is the key determinant as to whether someone becomes very wealthy or is not so wealthy? I'm Nick Farrow with Abundance Global. That's a question that we've looked at many times, and you'd be surprised at what we found is the truth. Some people will give answers like, it depends what family they were born into. Were you lucky enough to be born into a wealthy family? Some people will attribute that luck to, did I win the lotto? Is that what's going to make us wealthy? Did I marry someone who was wealthy? Marry into money. You know, it's an old movie cliche. Maybe the difference in your mind between becoming wealthy and remaining not so wealthy is where you're born. Were you born in a poor rural town or in an affluent city where there's opportunity? Maybe it's even as far as, you know, were you born into white privilege or in some other culture? And maybe there's historically been an element of truth in that. What I will tell you though is that there's people of all colours and of all nationalities that have become incredibly wealthy over time. And there are people from all ethnic backgrounds that have remained incredibly poor. So I don't think we can attach it to that. What we've found is that there are four key behavioural actions, four key behaviours that are the great determinant as to whether someone becomes wealthy or less so. What we have found is that there are four, no more, no less, there are four key behavioural patterns that time and time again influence whether someone is going to become very wealthy or not. I think you probably want to know what those behavioural patterns are so that you can copy them and achieve a greater level of wealth in your life. Now, some people call these secrets. I think that's a wrong term. They're actually really obvious, even though most people don't actually do them. The first one, like I said, this is obvious, is we're going to save. People who become wealthy, invariably, they spend less than they earn. I'll repeat that, they spend less than they earn. It doesn't matter what the earn figure is, what their income is, totally irrelevant. The difference is we save. We spend less than we earn and we save the difference. The second step is, once we have some savings, and I stress it does not need to be a lot, the second thing is we invest what we have saved. Now, as soon as I say invest, you think, oh, that's too hard. I've got to go to university. I don't have that kind of education. What am I going to invest in? What if I pick the wrong stocks? What if someone rips me off? Genuine questions. Here is a really simple way to decide what you're going to invest in. Any asset that you are going to invest in needs to do two things. It needs to be an appreciating asset. That means with the passage of time, it will increase in value. Now I stress, this is not a get-rich-quick scheme. This is invest in something that will slowly but surely increase in value over time. Some examples. A house. Not necessarily the one you're living in. It may be that you can't save enough to invest in a house to live in. But I'll bet you can save enough to invest in an investment property, a rental property. It might be a small one-bedroom apartment or studio, something small that you may never live in or have no desire to live in. But nevertheless, it is something that is proven that over time will increase in value. And in Australia, over the last 120 years, we've got records of it. The average will be 7% per year compounding over time. Now, there is also another truth, and that is sometimes, and we've been through this recently, housing appreciates really quickly. Other times it flatlines, and right now in places like Sydney and Melbourne, it's going backwards. That is not your concern. What you need to know is it will appreciate over time, and this strategy for getting wealthy will take time, but it will work. So we invest in assets that will appreciate. Another example is in the stock market. Again, they'll go up and down, but if you have a balanced fund that you invest in, where you have a good round proportion of quality stocks, over time they'll appreciate. So that is the first thing. What you invest in must appreciate. The second thing is it must produce an income. Anything you invest in must produce an income. In the example of a property, that's the rent that you receive each week, each month from your tenants. It may not be much, but it will produce some income. In the example of investing in the share market, the shares that you buy will pay a dividend, which is your share of the profit that the company made at the end of the year. So if the asset that you're looking at investing in doesn't do those two things, doesn't appreciate over time, and doesn't provide a regular income, it is not something that the wealthy are going to invest in. I'm going to give you an example of something that you may think is worth investing in but doesn't meet those criteria. Gold. Some people love investing in gold. And over time, gold has absolutely appreciated in value. What it doesn't do is it doesn't provide an income. No one's going to pay you rent for being able to borrow your gold or live in your gold. Gold isn't a company that's going to make a profit that's going to pay you a dividend at the end of the year. So while gold is a store of value, absolutely, it is not the path to wealth that is one of these behavioural patterns the rich follow absolutely religiously. All right, step 3 is reinvest. So invest and reinvest, what does that mean? Well, I said a moment ago that the investments that we have to appreciate in value and they have to produce an income. What wealthy people do is the income that comes out of their investments, they do not spend it. They reinvest it into more investments. So if you're collecting rent from a studio or from a house or some other property, you collect that rent and you invest that into your next property. Say that again. Your first property pays you an income that you invest into your second property. Once you're collecting incomes from 2 properties, then you'll save those up and that will help you fund property 3 and 4. And I know you've heard of people that have great big property portfolios, great big share portfolios. Whatever you're doing, we reinvest the income from your investments. In the example of the stock market, many stocks have what's known as a dividend reinvestment scheme. If you've ever invested in the stock market before, you'll usually get this as a choice when you first buy shares in a company. They'll say, do you want to participate in our dividend reinvestment scheme? You don't have to do that particular scheme, but that is a simple way to increase your shareholding out of the profits you've earned without ever having to collect money and having the risk of spending it. So we always reinvest it. And the 4th step is that we repeat that. We keep doing it over and over again until such time that the income that is coming out of your investments is large enough for you to lead the life that you want to from that alone. So we're going to keep working and saving until such time as our investments are now replacing the income that we used to have to rely on. Now you have what's known as financial freedom. You can keep living the great life that you have been simply from the income that comes out of your investments. And those are 4 behavioural patterns that the wealthy do time and time again. Does that mean you're going to retire from your job or your work? No, you may love it. It may be your life's work and you're going to continue doing that. But now you have options, and that's what we want for you. Here at Abundance Global, we're helping build an amazing community of entrepreneurs who are building wealth in their business. And the truth is that 50% of millionaires in America are entrepreneurs. They have their own business. It's a great way. But also the truth is 50% of millionaires never started a business. What is true is that they all follow this. So we'd love you to join our community. There's a link below. We've got a free community that we'd love you to join. We can find out a whole lot more about how we help people to go from the income that they have now to enjoying financial independence.